Saturn Mahadasha in Putin's horoscope. To understand that, we will have to start his journey from the Jupiter Mahadasha. In terms downfall episode, I have already discussed Putin's journey till the Venus Antardasha of Jupiter Mahadasha. Now, after that, what happened? Venus Antardasha falls in roughly around 9th or 10th year of the Mahadasha. So when the Venus Antardasha ended, as we have seen, everybody's life go through a turn, and Putin had to leave St. Petersburg, and he has to migrate to Moscow. In Moscow, he was looking after the real estate for the president. It was a junior position and not so important position, but he was moving around in the president's house, and people who know about Yeltsin, the president at that time, he was presiding over a USSR which was breaking up every day. It was going through the poverty, and poverty was to such an extent that you can see the videos of that day, that time, where the Russian people were scavenging from the dustbin and trash bin daily food. So where was Putin at this time? Putin migrated to Moscow from St. Petersburg, and he started working as a real estate manager or in charge of the real estate of the presidential properties. It was a very, you can say, ki junior position, but he was moving around Yeltsin, the president, and slowly he came close to him. And at that time, Yeltsin was not able to find solution for the economic problems of the Russia. Russia was collapsing. Russian economy was collapsing, and as a, people who know about Yeltsin, they know that he was a buzzard, drunkard, and he was very old. His health was failing. So what he was doing, he was firing prime ministers left, right, and center. Like every 4 5 months, you will see that the prime minister he changed, he sacked, he brought somebody in, and after few months, then he found that that guy is not working well, so he sacked him also. So in this time, Yeltsin suddenly started getting liking for the Putin. Putin, who was looking after his real estate, he made him part of the security committee, where he started advising him on the security matters, how to deal with NATO, how to deal with US, how to deal with other, because of his KGB background. He became close to Yeltsin. And one such day in 99, in mid 99, Putin was suddenly made the prime minister of Russia. Yes, nobody across the globe knew who the hell Putin was. Suddenly, one guy from the bureaucracy was brought in and made the prime minister of Russia. World was laughing at Yeltsin. But look at his horoscope. Putin's rise to the prime ministership happened in Moon Antardasha of Jupiter Mahadasha. Moon is sitting in the 8th house. 8th house is the house of transformation. People call it house of death. But like in Western civilization or a Christian or a Muslim faith, death is the finality. In Hinduism, it is not. In Hinduism, it is the continuation. It is you are changing one form to another. Your soul is transforming into one form to another. So, eighth house is not full stop. Eighth house is the transforming into something else. A Putin, who was a bureaucrat till that time, suddenly was sitting as a prime minister of Russia, the second most powerful militarily country in the world. And Yeltsin was dying. So he made Putin prime minister in mid of the 99, and within 6 8 months he fell sick. So in February March he resigned, and I think December 99 itself he resigned, and within 2 3 months there was no other alternative. So Putin was made the president of Russia. So within this period of transformation, that is the Moon Antardasha of the Jupiter Mahadasha, Putin from an absolute nobody went on to become president of the Russia. And 2000 to 2004, He, without any checks, as a humble guardian of the country, he just focused on stabilizing the economy of the country. That is the Jupiter Mahadasha going on for him. So in the Jupiter Mahadasha, what was the opposition doing? That is USA. USA was ruled by Clinton. The Bill Clinton was having some other plans. When the Russia was unstable and economically not in a very good condition, NATO, European Union, and the Clinton's America, they slowly started encroaching on the USSR states, the breakaway factions of the USSR. This started during that time. So, as a security advisor and the prime minister of Russia, Putin was observing what Clinton or the USA is doing around his neighborhood. They were provoking all the ex USSR states to join NATO and oppose Russia, where Russia was just trying to be friendly. They were not at all adversarial. Yeltsin, in fact, was very friendly to USA and the European countries. But in spite of that, NATO and the US, they slowly started encroaching and encircling Russia. Putin, being an ex KGB officer, realized that. So, in his first meeting with Clinton, Putin is on record that he asked Clinton that the reason for that, and he told them ki why not disband the NATO or make them also part of the NATO so that there is no threat to each other. We all can live as a friends. This is Jupiter Mahadasha happening for Putin. You are too friendly, you are too gullible, or you are too benevolent when the Jupiter Mahadasha is going on. Jupiter Mahadasha, rarely a person is aggressive. But Clinton, on the other side, he brushed him aside. World was taking him as a buffoon or non-serious candidate or somebody who just because Yeltsin was sick got a chance and sat on the throne, but he is not worthy of that throne. That is how world was looking at Putin till 2003. In first 2 3 years of his prime ministership, that is in the Sun Antardasha of Jupiter and the Mars Antardasha of Jupiter, there were terrorist attacks inside Russia, and Putin handled it so ruthlessly that a world got the glimpse of the Putin what we are seeing today. World at that time got the glimpse of him. He can be ruthless if he wants, but he was dealing with the world in a very soft and soft manner. So still, in spite of looking at the glimpse of how ruthless he can be while dealing with the opposing terrorist forces, USA and Europe thought that is internal problem he can handle in a tough manner, but outside to manage the outside world, they don't have money power, and they started treating him more shabbily. They provoked Georgia and Ukraine to join European Union and the NATO. So when that process started, Putin objected to that, and this is the fag end of Jupiter Mahadasha. Putin was getting restless. His dasha was changing. He was going to get into Saturn Mahadasha. Saturn is placed in 12th house. 12th house, any planet in 12th house will isolate you. Okay? Any planet. Let it be any planet. It will isolate you. It will make you plan. It will make you scheme. And it will make you a good manager. But it will put you in a cabin where you are isolated from the other people or general people of the world. So this is what was going to happen to Putin. Jupiter was in seventh house. Now the 12th house was going to get activated. So fourth house and the fifth house, which is the Aquarius and the Capricorn, they are going to get activated as soon as the Saturn Dasha starts. So as we have spoken in the earlier episodes also, In the first Antardasha of any Mahadasha, normally the nature changes, the food, eating habits, behavioral pattern changes, but the world outside still sees you as the old person in Jupiter Mahadasha. And your approach to them or approach to the handling problem changes in the second Antardasha of the any Mahadasha. So the Jupiter Mahadasha for Putin ended on 24th of November 2003 and the Saturn Mahadasha started. So when the Saturn Mahadasha started, there was a big clash in Ukraine about who will be the prime president of the Ukraine, and Western world has put up a guy known as Yushchenko against Viktor Yanukovych. Yanukovych was a pro-Russian guy, and Yushchenko was a Western protege. So when the election started, Russia was supporting Yanukovych, but Western world they interfered, or that is what is said. There was a Orange Revolution or something of that sort, where the they the protest was created. Protest was created, and the elected government of the Russian supporting government was overthrown, and a Western supporting guy was planted in. So this is the start of the Saturn Mahadasha for USSR. Putin didn't do much. Putin was going through a transformation, but that was going to make him tough. Start of Saturn Dasha is normally like this. Events happen and they make you tough. And that toughness lasts with you till the end of Saturn Mahadasha. So what happened? Putin stopped the gas going to Ukraine and he started building his industrialists from the Russia started building direct pipeline to Germany to supply gas through Russia. So because of that, what happened? Suddenly Ukraine was going to face gas scarcity, and Russia could switch off the tap to Ukraine. So Putin started playing his own chess games because he saw Western world interfering continuously during Yeltsin time and during his own initial years. So he started moving his own pawns on the chessboard. This started in the Saturn Antardasha, that is 2006, when the Saturn Antardasha ended and Mercury Antardasha started. So he started moving his pieces, and the confrontation started between the Western world and the Russia. Slowly, everybody started dividing into two camps because they saw now economically Russia is stabilized under Putin, and Putin, because of Saturn Mahadasha, has now in a more stable, firm, and controlled, ruthless way he is able to drive his point. And being Saturn in 12th house, that too with Sun and Mercury, and Mercury is exalted over here, he became powerful leader but isolated leader. He tried to be a good guy, but he was treated like a fool by Western world. So he became a tough guy. Tough he was always. But what was happening to his surrounding ex-USSR states, he has to become tough, and he became very tough. So 2006 onwards, as soon as the Saturn Antardasha ended in Mercury Antardasha, first he started opposing US and the European moves in all the world platforms very strongly. He started creating his own networks. And 2007 and 8, when the Georgia was behaving exactly how the Ukraine is behaving now, Russia invaded Georgia. Now he was not taking their hanky panky or their political chessboard games that easily. He was a military man. So he entered with all his forces into Georgia. And he broke the Georgia in the similar way he has broken Ukraine right now. He broke the Georgia into two parts and he recognized the second part as an independent country. That is Putin for you. And that is Mercury Antardasha in Saturn. Mercury and Saturn are together. Mercury is exalted in 12th house. He was ready to be isolated from the world but to implement his decision. For a Libran ascendant guy, Saturn is a Yog Karak planet. Yog Karak planet is very auspicious and it gives you normally success in whatever you do. But it is sitting in 12th house, so it is isolating him. But isolation and success, both he was ready for. As soon as the Mercury ended, something funny was going to happen. He has finished 2 terms as a president, and Yeltsin has made a clause in the new constitution that, like America, even a Russian president will be there for only 2 terms after Yeltsin, basically. So Putin has already finished his 2 terms. He became president in 2000 and 2008. That second term ended, but he was so successful and so aggressive that the entire Russia was behind him. So he played a very risky move. He took a junior position of prime minister again, and he made somebody else as president of the Russia, and for 4 years he worked under him as a prime minister. That is Putin for you. Why this is happening? Because he was going to go through the Ketu Antardasha, Ketu in 10th house. So designation wise, he was one step below the topmost position, but he was still controlling everything because Saturn was giving him that authority, and he has proven himself in last 8 years. So 4 years he worked as a prime minister, but still he maintained the control over the government. And 2012, when the elections happened, thumpingly majority he got, and he came back as a president. He changed the constitution, and now for infinite years he can be president. So 2012 onwards, continuously he is in president. He is winning elections. Elections are doubtful and all, but Saturn makes you that. It makes you ruthless. It makes you popular also when it is combining with Sun. So a lot of astrologers in the book say if Saturn is with Sun, then the king and the population both are together. Signification of a king is Sun, and the signification of population or the general public is Saturn. So when they are together in your chart or in somebody's chart, the person is definitely going to become popular. So what we have got? We have got an isolated president who is very popular. That is Putin for you. So Mercury and then the Ketu. After that, when the Venus Antardasha started, by the end of Venus Antardasha, Venus is sitting in ascendant in its own sign. It again made him the king. It again made him the president. Ascendant, any planet sitting in ascendant, whenever its Antardasha or Dasha comes, it will give you some authority. It will give you some leadership role. That is what happened to Putin. He came back again as a president in 2012. So as soon as the Venus Antardasha and Saturn Mahadasha started, Yanukovych, who was Putin's favorite candidate in Ukraine, he won the president's election. And he started the reversing the process of getting away from the European Union and NATO. So as that process started, the opposition from the Europe or the American led forces started, and it became very aggressive. And as the modus operandi we had been seeing in different nations, the protest marches and the revolution against the government, all that started. The Western media started blaming Putin for the whatever is happening, the corruption in Ukraine and all that. All whole game, the routine started aggressively in 2010. And 2010 is the time when basically Western media clearly identified Putin, though Prime Minister at that time, as villain. This is Venus Antardasha going on. So 2013, the revolution became so aggressive that Yanukovych had to escape from Ukraine. He was an elected leader, but he had to escape from the Ukraine and he escaped to Russia. This is happening in the Sun in Saturn. Okay, so Sun in Saturn both are opposing forces. As we have spoken earlier, the Sun and Saturn combination makes you popular, but it is a very unstable and difficult combination. Why? Because Sun is the ruler and Saturn is the general public. So general public cannot behave like a ruler and a ruler cannot behave like a general public. So whenever there is a Sun Antardasha in Saturn Mahadasha or a Saturn Antardasha in Sun Mahadasha, there is going to be a lot of insults, humiliation and very what is a struggle, very big struggle, and which happened with Putin also. But Putin being Putin, as soon as the Saturn, the Moon Antardasha in Saturn started, Moon being in the 8th house, which is 10th from the Saturn's position. Saturn is in 12th and Moon is in 8th. So it is the 10th from the Saturn. So he has to do something dramatic. He has to transform being the 8th energies of the 8th house, and Moon is exalted. He moved into Crimea and immediately took a referendum where people voted to be part of Russia. So the referendum, that is people's will. So if people want to be with Russia, then it is as good as a democratic opinion. He took over Crimea, and there the clashes started moving into the second level. This is happening in Moon Antardasha of the Saturn Mahadasha. In Jyotish, it is called as Vish Yo. Though his moon is powerful, transformational, but it is a Vish Yo. That is, it is going to create a lot of poison around. So 2014, 15, 16, you can trace that journey, trace the history, and you will know that this is the time basically Putin came out against West with full force. He started striking alliance all over the globe. Now things were going to get very serious. See, here we have to understand two things. Ki Saturn Sun is a difficult combination. Then Saturn Moon is different and difficult combination. And Saturn Mars is a very violent combination. So 2016 May onwards, his Mars Antardasha in Saturn Mahadasha started. And that was going to last for 1 year. Things were going to get very bad. He was openly confrontational with everybody. And first term of the Trump's presidency has started. Trump decided to provide Ukraine with the lethal weapons with which they can fight Russia. And that started in the Trump's first term. So Putin got alerted. He knew now the war is coming. And he was not averse to that because he was in a Mars Antardasha of Saturn. That is something, if anybody has got a Saturn Mars combination is in their chart, then they are always up for a fight. In Saturn Dasha, Mars Antardasha, or Mars Antardasha, Mars Dasha, and Saturn Antardasha, a person is going to fight. So he was ready for a fight, he started preparing for it, but the things are going to get worse because the Saturn Rahu is going to start, and Rahu is in the sign of Capricorn. So Rahu in Capricorn increases, enhances the effect of Saturn again. So things were again going to become worse for Putin. So as the Rahu Antardasha started, Putin was totally cornered. Saturn plus Saturn, Rahu in Saturn sign, that is doubling the Saturn's effect. Putin was totally cornered. Putin was isolated successfully. And in 2019, Zelensky was made president. According to Russians, it was a rigged election, and Zelensky was made the president. And Zelensky was popped up to start a fight with Putin. They were provoking The Western world and the whole NATO alliance, they were provoking Putin continuously. Putin was not looking for a direct confrontation with them. So the worst kind of provocation was done. That is, Russia is an Orthodox country. Most of the Russians are Orthodox Christians. Similarly, Ukraine is an Orthodox country. And the history says that the main church of the Orthodox Christians was initially in Turkey, that is in Istanbul. Earlier, Orthodox Christianity's main center of pilgrimage was Sophia Hagia, that is in Istanbul. And as the Ottomans conquered the Istanbul, the Orthodox Christians they moved to first to Ukraine and then to Russia, and now it is the Russian Church is the main center of the Orthodox Christianity, and that was like this since the Ottomans conquered the Turkey. So what this guy started doing under Zelensky's protection, or just before that, the movement to dissociate the Ukrainian church from the subordination of the Russian church began. So they were initially trying to dissociate Ukraine militarily and politically from Russia. Now, even as a Christianity, they started to dissociate them. And when Zelensky came into the picture, he moved the Ukrainian church's allegiance to Turkish Orthodox Church, giving an excuse that ancient before the Ottomans conquered, the Turkish Orthodox Church was the main church. So this, though media talks less about this movement, but this has huge implication on the control of Russia over the Christian population who believes in Orthodoxy. So 2019, January, somewhere around that, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church dissociate itself from the Russian Orthodox Church. That immediately after that, in the election, Zelensky wins and become president and clearly shows the intention of breaking away of any ties with the Russia and joining NATO and all whatever is happening today. That started immediately as soon as the Zelensky became the president. And 2020, the another twist came into this tale that Sophia Hagia, which was the initial center of the Orthodox Christianity, was converted into a mosque by Erdogan. So the Orthodox Christianity, which is the central pillar of Ukraine and Russia, was getting one shock after another. So when in 2019 they decided to dissociate with Russian church, the Russian church as well as Putin both got very upset. This is happening in the Rahu Antardasha of Saturn Mahadasha. He was upset. He wanted to do something, but he was not having any concrete way or any outlet to do something. It was not a trigger enough to justify a war. So he started a build up. He knew the war is coming. He started his preparation. Jupiter Antardasha in Saturn, that is the last Antardasha of any Mahadasha, you start to dismantle your nature, food habits, and all the things you were doing in the entire Mahadasha of Saturn, and a new way of thinking starts to develop. Jupiter Antardasha in Saturn Mahadasha, he started building up for a big war. That built up scared the Western powers. They started giving Ukraine more arms, and in 2022, as soon as the corona wave ended, Russia invaded Ukraine. This is the start of Mercury Mahadasha. Mercury is a young planet. It's an enthusiastic planet. In the beginning, it starts with a childish like enthusiasm. So the war started like that. The Mercury Mahadasha, when it was starting just before that period, the Russia invaded Ukraine with lot of enthusiasm, big army, big force, and huge convoys of tanks and all, which we all saw on television. But as the Russia was building up, Ukraine was also building up to counter them. They countered them quite effectively. And Dasha Sandhi of any two Dasha, when one Dasha is transferring into second Dasha, first Antardasha, basically a person goes through so many changes that he becomes confused. So Putin was going through that Dasha Sandhi from 2022, 23, 24. So he was not understanding why he is not able to win Ukraine easily. So he started taking Donbass and the route till the Crimea, and he enters into that because the opposition from the Ukrainian side was stiff, and the support from the European nations and the American nation was quite stiff. But now the Mercury Dasha has activated. Mercury is again sitting in 12th house, house of isolation, exalted but house of isolation, and it is with Saturn. So it's going to be tricky. He will try to solve the problem diplomatically. After all, he is going through Mercury Dasha, which is very different from Saturn Mahadasha. Saturn, you become very stubborn. You become very go-getter, workaholic, ruthless. In Mercury, you want to relax a little bit. In Mercury, you want to enjoy a little bit. You have got a lot of enthusiasm to do anything, but you don't have such sustenance energy. You will start something with very big enthusiasm, but to hold it for a long duration, the energy or the patience which he showed during the Jupiter and Saturn Mahadashas, it won't be same. We will try to reach a compromise, an agreement in the Mercury Mahadasha. But as Mercury is placed in the 12th house, he will remain isolated. The world, especially the USA driven world, will try to keep him isolated, and he will remain isolated till the end. It's a sad part, but his nature is going to change. He is going to be more accommodating, and he is going to try and have a border uh, clearly demarcated, which I think Trump and Putin will be able to achieve. Let us see when they are able to achieve. As we have discussed in Trump's downfall episode, the 2026 second half to 2027 and 28 are going to be little bad for Trump. But I see some good times for Putin in these 2 years. So, whatever kind of compromise or whatever kind of treaty these two powers reach, it will be always projected as Putin won and Trump got defeated. If Trump remains in his position in 2027 and 28, I think something like that is going to happen. Mercury in 12 shows war will end soon, but Putin's isolation will not. See you in next episode.
Whoa, steady now. I can balance this. Almost got it.